Hey, it's Ernest from TripAstute. In this video, we're exploring electric scooters and how to use services like Bird and Lime to get around when traveling. If you've traveled recently to a major city, there's a good chance that you've seen people zipping by on an electric scooter, or perhaps you've almost tripped over one that's parked on the sidewalk. I know these scooters have been a bit controversial since they just kind of appeared in many cities without actually getting approval from the local governments. In fact, it reminds me of how Uber and Lyft would just start service in the city and then have laws follow afterwards. Ironically, some of these electric scooter companies are owned and operated by these ride-sharing companies. To be honest, I have mixed feelings about them as well. While they seem to be getting good use, they do seem to get a range of reactions from people. You can tell that some folks really love them and depend on them as a transportation source, while others find them to be a total nuisance and safety hazard. That being said, you'll likely see one when traveling, especially since companies like Bird and Lime seem to be expanding every day. So I thought I'd share a run through on how to use these scooters and also some tips to keep in mind. Like I said, you might hate these things, but a lot of travelers and daily commuters are starting to use them in places like LA, so it's worth understanding how these services work. But first, if you're new here, welcome to our channel. TripAstute is a travel channel that is focused on sharing ways to make travel easier, affordable, and more enjoyable. Traveling can be stressful and expensive, so we're looking for ways to help you maximize your experience through travel tips, points and miles, and innovative gear. If that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing. Today I'll focus on Bird and Lime. I know there are other electric scooter companies out there, but these are the two that I've seen most frequently here in Southern California. Bird and Lime are similar in the way they work, and I assume that the other companies operate the same way as well. To use one of these services, you'll need to download the app for your phone. It should be a free download. You'll need to register for an account. In addition, you'll have to agree to terms of service and register a credit card or enable a service like Apple Pay. I noticed on Bird that it asked me to scan my driver's license too, so keep that in mind. Once the app is registered to you, you can use the app to locate a scooter if you haven't found one already. You can also use the app to trigger a sound on the scooter in case you can't find it in its location. You'll want to also pay attention to the battery level listed for the scooter. Depending on where you're going and how long you plan to use it, you want to be mindful of the charge. For example, if you're just going a mile or two down the road, then a scooter with a low battery is probably not going to be a problem. But if you're planning to use it to tour a city or go uphill, then you'll probably want one with more charge. Once you're ready to start using your scooter, you'll need to scan the QR code on the scooter. This should unlock and activate the scooter. You're now ready to start riding. The apps generally give you some guidelines on how to use a scooter. However, it was a bit confusing the first time we tried it. First, you'll want to release the kickstand. To start it up, you'll want to start pushing the scooter 2 or 3 times with your foot, then pressing the accelerate button with your right thumb. The scooter should start to accelerate. You can then move around and even brake using the button on the handle. You'll want to stick to bike lanes whenever possible. In fact, some places are very strict about where you can and cannot ride your scooter, so be careful. As I mentioned earlier, the laws governing these scooters usually follow after they're released, so a lot of cities are scrambling to figure out how to regulate these services. Once you're done riding, you'll park the scooter, engage its kickstand, then end the ride through the app. It's that simple. The cost is calculated by time rather than distance, and it depends on where you rent your scooter. For example, in Los Angeles, it cost me 15 cents per minute to ride a Bird and Lime scooter. There's also a fee, usually $1, to start the rental on top of the per minute cost. In addition, here are some important things to consider if you plan to rent an electric scooter. Number 1, do a quick check of the scooter. You'll want to do a quick check of the scooter before starting your ride. One of the scary things about these scooters is that there really isn't anyone regularly checking the structure and tires. While you can report if there's a problem, the maintenance does seem to be a bit more reactive rather than proactive. I would do a quick visual inspection for any cracks or loose components. Number 2, you can only rent one scooter at a time. If you're traveling with others, you might think that you can rent a few scooters at once. However, you can only rent one at a time per service. You could technically rent scooters from different services at the same time on one phone, but in reality, the companies want and require the primary rider to rent and register on the app. I'm sure it has to do with the liability, so I recommend having everyone rent their own scooter using their own phone. Number 3, use extra caution when riding at night. You'll notice a significantly fewer number of scooters available in the late afternoon and evening. The reason for this is because the scooters usually get charged at night. If you do decide to ride one at night, be sure that you have a scooter that has a functioning front and rear light. I've only seen a couple of models of scooters that have them. In general, I would avoid riding these scooters at night, so you're just more likely to hit something or be hit by another vehicle. Number 4, be aware of local laws. As I mentioned earlier, the laws are still in flux in many areas when it comes to these electric scooters. It's worth doing a quick Google search to see current laws for your area. For example, in Santa Monica, California, you need to be a licensed driver who's wearing a helmet and riding on the road, not on the sidewalk, in order to legally operate a scooter. This might be completely different in another city, so just be mindful of the local laws. Number 5, get a free helmet. If you need a helmet, you're in luck. Bird is actually giving away free helmets to riders. All you have to do is order one from the app and pay for the shipping. Number 6, don't share your ride with others. I've seen this a few times while walking around Santa Monica. You don't want to double up on a scooter with someone else. It's really dangerous. I've seen people do this with kids too, and I just cringe thinking what might happen if they crash. Number 7, use a discount code. If you're planning to use one of these services, make sure to use a discount code to receive a few dollars off your first ride. You can get one from your friends, or if you want to use our code, you can get one from the video description below. Number 8, don't block pathways when parking your scooter. When ending your ride, you'll want to park your scooter in a location that doesn't block the pathways. It's probably common sense to most people, but I see these things in the middle of sidewalks all the time. Number 9, charges don't always qualify as travel. This one is for you credit card points nerds. One thing I was curious about was whether these services would show up as travel on my Chase Sapphire Reserve card. Since metro, taxi, and ride-sharing charges typically register as travel, I thought there was a good chance that Bird and Lime would be the same. However, on my test, it was inconsistent. Bird charges showed up as travel, which earned the extra points, but Lime charges did not. They showed up as online. This might change in the future, but for now, just know that the charges may not post as travel on your credit card. Number 10, consider renting a bike or scooter from a store. Since the scooter is charged by the minute, you might be better off renting a scooter or bike from a local store. These places generally charge a fixed rate based on total time. You'll also be able to pick the scooter or bike that you want to use and get things like helmets and locks if needed. It's worth noting too that Lime also rents standard bikes. We actually opted for 2 regular bikes when we were in San Diego's Balboa Park, since we couldn't find 2 scooters that were charged and working properly. Have you tried using an electric scooter? Do you have any other tips to share? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please give us a thumbs up and consider sharing the video with others who might benefit or enjoy our content. Until next time, travel safe and travel smart.